Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa Hosick, and I'm the Adult Programming Librarian at the East Brunswick Public Library. Thank you so much for coming out this afternoon for our really quick podcast break. This is to give you a little bit of change. Maybe you're grabbing some food and you want to have a quick mini program. So this afternoon, we're going to be talking about some staff recommendations for podcasts that you can download and add to your queue. And so let us get started. So our first podcast recommendation is actually by librarian Betsy, who had submitted to last month's. And the podcast is Getting Curious with JVN. It's in the Society and Culture section. At least that's what Apple Podcast categorizes it at. And it's Come on a Journey with Jonathan Van Ness, who you may recognize from Queer Eye and Gay of Thrones, another really funny video podcast, and experts in their respective fields as they get curious about anything and everything under the sun. And this is a quote actually from Betsy. He is hilarious and he chats with experts in all kinds of areas. My favorite episode was 132. Remember that number, when he interviewed Nancy Birtwistle, a winner of the Great British Baking Show, which is still very popular, even though it's going through a few changes now. So I don't know if any of you know Jonathan Van Ness or recognize him. He's really funny. He is great at interviewing other people and letting them shine. So if you're into something, he interviews all sorts of people. So if you're into that format, definitely check it out. So our next one is actually recommended by me, and it's Mob Queens. It's actually only had 12 episodes because they ran out of story. They're looking at bringing in other stories, but they've been inactive for a year. So this is a short run if you need to fill it and you don't want to add something to, your regularly scheduled weekly or monthly listening. This might be the one for you. I'm not usually a true crime person, but this one I really enjoyed. And there's actually a little bit of a New Jersey connection. So Mob Queens is in the true crime category, as I said. And mob stories are always all about the guys, but not this one. Anna Genovese is a New York drag club maven and badass mob wife. Hollywood besties Jessica Bendinger, she was a writer on the movie Bring It On, and Michael Seligman, who is a writer for RuPaul's Drag Race, are obsessed. They piece together Anna's story, racing between speakeasies, mob informants, and former drag queens. Actually, Anna Genovese and her husband, who is a mob boss, actually had property in Monmouth County, and I think you can still go to their Castle Mansion complex if you really want to. I think Castle Gardens. I think it's that. Someone let me know if you are in the chat. Leave a comment, and I will check it. This one, as I said, is really fun. They actually turns out to have a real-life connection to the story, which is really fascinating. Listening from someone else's perspective, not the typical male perspective, is fun. And there's also an LGBTQIA+ perspective if you're interested in that. So definitely, I totally recommend that podcast. So the third one, which actually I find is really funny, it's actually from Kathy Churn. She's our Consumer Health and Information Services librarian. You may recognize her from our Lunch and Learn Friday series. And it's called This Podcast Will Kill You. And it's a life and sciences podcast. And the hosts are epidemiologists, which timely right now, and doctors, they were students when they started recording, are really funny and talk about science and diseases in a very approachable and easy to understand way. Plus, they give recipes for alcoholic cocktails called Quarantinis. Yes, really cute name. And also a non-alcoholic cocktail called Placeboritas. Well, for those of us who do not drink, for each episode. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check it out. Okay, so our actual final mini one in this slideshow is from our director, Melissa Kuzma, the other Melissa. And the title of it is What Should I Read Next? Which, you always ask us what we're reading now and need recommendations. And actually the category is in reading. I don't know why it says technology, but I think technology is slightly connected. And this is actually a quote from Melissa Kuzma. And this podcast is hosted by Ann Vogel of the Modern Mrs. Darcy blog. Every week, she interviews a listener or reader about 3 books they loved and 1 book they didn't, which, is definitely important so you don't go down the wrong path, and gives them 3 reading recommendations. I don't have a favorite episode because they're all great. It's fun to hear what others are reading, and Anne always has amazing recommendations. So you definitely want to check that out. And since there's no specific podcast, you can pretty much start wherever you want. It's not episodic in series like Serial. So let me know in the comments. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope/Twitter. Let me know in the comments. Do you have a podcast that you really enjoy? Let me know. Another one that was mentioned actually by the person from the podcast is In 30. It is a technology security podcast by actually our computer science teacher, Kyle Cohen. You might recognize him from East Brunswick High School. He helped run the Hour of Code that was last week for teens and tweens and kids. So he's got a little great topics. It's a shorter format, give you a lot of good recommendations. And this time when so many things are virtual, it's really important to know how to keep yourself safe. Does anyone have any recommendations? I see we got a few people watching. Let me know. Also, you can be in our chat on nixler.com/EBP library. So I'll wait a little bit of time. I want to let you know that we've got a lot of cool things coming up. It may be the end of the year and it's light, but we are going to be hitting the ground running in January, even if it is a virtual. Our event calendar is at ilove.ebpl.org/events. We've definitely got technology classes, health classes, DIY, something for kids, teens, and adults. So definitely check it out. We've got some new things in the works as well, a few different series with the township, with other libraries, and other town community organizations. Let's see if we have any questions. It doesn't look like anyone has anything to share, but definitely if you do want to share it, you can write to us on social media under the post in the comments here on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope. You can also email to programs@ebpl.org. And if we get enough recommendations, we'll do another episode. So with that in mind, thank you very much for watching or listening. Be safe and be well. We hope to see you at a future program.